So it's weird. And we went to Denmark for 7 weeks. We just came back Friday to London, which was nice. It was nice to be somewhere where it's like normal. Basically, everything's normal. It's getting okay now. It's almost normal here in London, except you have to wear a mask. But in Denmark, it was in May. It was normal life, so that was good.
Well, they got a good handle on it straight away, didn't they, out there?
Yeah, and it's a small country. They were really tight compared to us, and they also, I think, in general, people in Denmark are a bit more respectful of the rules, and there's less people. It's a smaller place. People respect the rules a bit more.
Well, it's the same as like New Zealand. They literally got nothing, and then they had 2 new cases from 2 people who come back from the UK.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, with COVID and everything, talk about a crazy way to end your first year in charge off ice.
Yeah, it was. I know. I mean, nobody expected it to end that way. I certainly didn't. I remember telling the guys just before they left for Belfast that you have my word. We're playing this weekend. We're finishing this season. Don't get distracted by it. We're gonna play. And then in the span of 48 hours, everything changed. And I had to call the guys back and say, yeah, you're coming home, or there's no games this weekend. That was crazy. But I think it was, when you look back, it was the best decision for everybody. But at that time, it was kind of, everything was happening so fast and nobody really knew what to expect. It was a bit, it was crazy.
Because I remember that we're there sat in the office because there's meant to be like a big government announcement. And then that announcement came and they didn't really say anything. It was just more of a carry on and we'll see what happens. And like you said, the next day, because remember we were sat there waiting for that when they were about to get on the boat. Because there was every chance that we were going to say, oh, don't get on the boat, because the announcement to come at 3. They then changed the announcement to like 5. Yeah. And then nothing happened. And then it was overnight that it all kind of kicked off, sort of thing. Because because you must have been keeping tabs on all the other leagues that were shutting down as it was going.
Yeah, that was the main issue, I think, is everybody knew, players and everybody knew around the league, that other leagues were shutting down and we're not going to play anymore. So, there was a sense that, are we going to be the only league in Europe that is going to keep playing through this? I think still today, I don't know, 3 months into this, still today, not everybody reacts to the whole pandemic the same way. But back in March, you had different reactions from different players and different people involved. Some players were okay, and they were like, I want to finish the season. We'll get through this. But other players were scared, were anxious. They were scared about their loved one. They were scared about getting back home. Everybody had a kind of a different take on the whole situation. But yeah, the fact that leagues across Europe and across the world were shutting down, it put a lot of pressure, I think, on us to do the right thing.
And then to boost your ego a little bit, the 3 guys I spoke to who went out to Belfast and then came back, Tim Wallace, Brian Connolly, and Matthew Tousignon, they could not have been more complimentary about you and the effort you put in to get them all home.
Yeah, I mean, that was the least we could do as a club, is try to get everybody home as quick as possible and help them get back to their home country as fast as possible. But I was disappointed that we made them go all the way to Belfast without playing. But like I said earlier, it happened so fast, and I was talking to a lot of people, making sure that we were going to Belfast to play. And this, like you said, in the span of one announcement and a couple of phone calls, everything changed. But then, once we got the news that it was over, Gary was really quick to get the boat on the line and just to make sure we had the best and quickest and safest way to bring everybody home.
And so you got Gary doing that, you've got Sarah doing everything in the office as well, and then you on the phone reassuring the players that it's all happening. And like, it's just this crazy set. Like, some guys went home the next day, like Tuesday. Yeah. Some guys took a week or so to go back, but everyone did get back eventually, and it was all very well handled. From like I wasn't involved in any of it, but from watching everyone and all the moving pieces, it seemed very well handled.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did the best in this. It was new for everybody. It was a bit chaotic for everybody, this whole situation. But I think we did okay. The guys, most guys are really sharp, and they did what they had to do to make sure they were back home in time and safe. Um, yeah, I hope I'll never in my career I'll never have to deal with end of the season like this. I remember driving down with the baby, driving down to Nottingham to see all the players before they left. I wanted to make sure we had exit interviews. I just didn't want everybody to go home without seeing everybody. But we managed to kind of close the season out as best as we could before everybody left. But we did a few exit interviews on Skype and on the phone, me and Tim. But yeah, we did what we could.
And then that's kind of the depressing side of it all out of the way now. So let's talk about some actual ice hockey.
Yeah.
When you look back at your first year in charge, you retired over the summer, you're in your first year in charge. How do you look back at that first season?
I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to really evaluate the season because we still had two big things to play for. Sorry, which I think it's hard to get an accurate picture of the kind of team we had and what we could have achieved because we didn't finish. I was really pleased with the way we responded after this spell in October where I felt like we were really close to winning games, but we couldn't find a way. After that, we responded really well, and I'm proud of the way we grew as a group, and the way we improved during the season, and little tweaks here and there in the lineups, little tweaks here and there in our systems and stuff like that, and we really saw the results start coming our way. The Continental Cup leaves a bittersweet taste in my mouth. It was a really fun experience. We played some good hockey for the most part, but coming one goal short or a shootout short of bringing home a European trophy is still hard to accept. I think we had the team to win that competition. I think we were missing a couple guys from injury. Maybe the first game against Nottingham, the home team, they had a bit more momentum, a bit more jump, and they used the crowd. That's hockey. It was a road game. That's how it felt for us, anyways. But yeah, that's something I'll remember from that first year. I think the Continental Cup tournament is something I'll remember for a long time. And then the last thing is obviously the Challenge Cup. We showed some really good things. We dominated the semifinal for the most part, and then a few bad minutes of hockey. That's the beauty of the sport. That's why people watch games live, and that's why people miss hockey right now because of things like that. But I think we showed that we could, we had a chance to win. We should have won that semifinal. It's part of the learning curve. It's part of learning as we were a young group, a new group. I think it's unfortunate that it went that way, but it was definitely something we learned from. We never got to use that experience in the playoffs or in the last few league games, but it is what it is.
Is it more of a sense of, because the season got curtailed shortly, is it more a sense of frustration? Because it's not regret. It's not like you left, it's not like you lost the league title or you lost the playoffs. It's more frustration that you don't know what could have happened.
Yeah, it is. It's to be honest, it's such a big deal, and it's such a serious and like more, I want to say, when you put things in perspective, our season is not that important in the grand scheme of things, with this whole pandemic ordeal, that I was frustrated and I was disappointed for a couple of weeks, for 2-3 weeks, like everybody else, the players and the staff. But after a while, in the last couple of months, I decided that there's no point in wasting energy on that, it's just, it's pointless. It was eating me up from the inside, and I just thought it was not healthy to keep thinking about it. So yeah, for the most part of the summer, I've been looking forward to next season and trying to think positive instead of just looking back too much at what would have been and what could have been. But it's for sure disappointing and frustrating. Yeah.
Then you mentioned tweaks to the playing lineup, like guys like Alexis Loiseau had to retire because he got a concussion. Jens Jacobs comes in and leaves. William Quist comes in and he goes back home. And you replace those guys with guys like Ryan Horvath, Matthew Tousignon, Jake Hansen. What did you learn about recruiting a team for the Elite League based on that sort of
thing? I think last summer, everything was new. And there was a lot of work to be done just because when I got the job and I took some time to find a coach, and when me and Tim sat down and started discussing and building, coming with a vision and kind of what we wanted to build as a team, there was a lot of good players and a lot of players we would have liked to sign that were not interested anymore or had signed somewhere else. So I think that the timing of everything made the job last summer a little bit harder. I think that's why this whole time I was always repeating that I wanted to find a core group of guys and build around that, because I think it makes my job easier and it allows us to make a little, maybe a little tweak here and there and see the results right away instead of having to start from scratch every year. That's what I really want to avoid. This whole pandemic, again, is not going to work in my favor. It's not working in anybody's favor, but obviously when you try to bring a group of guys together and keep them happy together, a pandemic and a shortened season and a lot of uncertainty does not help the job. I can tell you that. What did I learn about recruiting? I think it's like everything. As the more you do it, the more you especially making contacts and building connection and a network really helps. I always had some people I talked to in the hockey world around Europe, but now that I've been out of playing for a year, that network grew a lot, and that helps tremendously when you try to recruit. And also just watching more and more, other leagues and other caliber, other level of players. I think I have a better understanding of what works in the Elite League. I think I knew last summer what I wanted, but now maybe it's easier to pinpoint exactly what qualities and what type of players will have success in especially in our system and the way we play, with Tim behind the bench.
And you mentioned then about being out of the game, not playing anymore. I remember the first day of training camp, you looked at me and you said, "This is when you miss it."
Yeah.
Did that feeling ever go away?
I don't miss training camp. I don't know if I told you that. That's a lie. Training camp's the worst part of any season. I think I'll miss it forever. I think I'll miss playing forever. It's the best. It was the best years of my life for sure, and I think I'll miss that forever. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to still be involved in the game. That helps a lot with missing it, because I have a lot of things to worry about and think about and take care of, and I don't have time to just sit down, reminisce, and miss playing. But being around the guys and still watching and being a part of the group helps. But yeah, this last few weeks I've been dreaming of playing, and weird dreams that I still miss it, and I miss the feeling after a practice or a game where you've given everything you had and you just feel like you accomplished something. That's hard, because you don't get that in my job right now. The only thing I get is stress and really short-lived joy. That's about it.
And you talk about stress. I know about your stress levels from watching you on a game day when you're up in the box. I'm sure it's worse because you're not in control. You've put the pieces
Yeah,
together, but once they get on the ice, it's not in your control anymore, and that's probably
yeah.
what makes it almost a bit more angsty sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really, that's the hardest part. I think I told you this before, but when I played, obviously Saturday was my favorite day of the week. It was the best, Saturday, Sunday was the best time of the week. And now we get to Saturday and I feel like I've done everything I could. I have no more control over anything, and it's the worst day of the week because I'm just sitting there stressing over the result. I think that's gonna hopefully get better with time, but it was still hard to watch and not do anything.
And then obviously the game looks so much easier from where you sit
Mhm,
now compared to where
mhm.
you sat before.
Yeah, yeah. And when as a player, I think most guys would say the same thing. You don't really worry about the result, if that makes any sense. You
Mm.
just, you have so many things to think about, so many details in your game that you have to be focused on, that you're not sitting there thinking, okay, there's 8 minutes left, we're down by one. When you don't have time to think about that. You're just busy doing your best and playing and making sure, there's a lot of things going on. But when you're not playing, the only thing I do is look at the clock. Okay, what's going? It's a lot more stressful, and I understand why fans get so stressed and so into it, because I was never really a fan before. The feeling of you can't change the result. You're just there to cheer, and I never had this feeling before last season, and now I can understand why people get so emotional and so into it. I can relate.
As I said, I've seen the both sides of it with you. Whether you jump up and pumping your fist, or when you're about ready to pull your
Yeah,
hair out from up there.
yeah, yeah. I'm
And
happy there's no camera on me.
so when you look back at it, are you happy with the decision to hang up the skates and move on to the off ice side of things?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I'm really lucky, and I'm really happy to still be involved in the game. There's not a ton of people that get this opportunity, so I'm happy. I'm like I said, I think I'm gonna miss playing forever. Even if I would have played 2, 3 more years, I would have missed it. So I don't think it changes much. The only little, it's not a regret, but the only little thing that kind of I'll think about is I would have liked my daughter to come to a game and
Mm.
see me play. I know a lot of guys with kids, that's their best memories, and that's what they remember when they retire. I Now that the baby's here, I wish she would have seen me. Um, but I wouldn't have changed anything just because of that. Who knows? Maybe she won't even care about hockey. So, but yeah. Besides that, I love my job. I'm passionate about it. It's really hard right now because it's hard to work because we don't know what's going on. Um, but besides that, I don't regret stepping away from playing.
And then going back to making the little tweaks to the roster, every guy you brought into that locker room fit into that locker room. No one came in and was a bad influence on anyone or anything like that. What goes in to get a bit inside baseball sort of thing? What goes into your background checks on guys to know so you're confident they can come into that group and not just deliver on the ice, but fit in as well? Because someone coming in like Tuesday with 2 months to go, he's got to fit
Mhm.
in to a group that's been together for a long time, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned it. It's a lot of background checks, a lot of talking to ex teammates, or the hockey world is a small world, especially in Europe. You always know someone that knows someone that played with that person or coached that person or played against him, and has an idea of how that player is. So there's a lot of that going on. I make an effort to not only watch and get Tim and the other people in the staff to watch the player, but I make an effort to always pick up the phone and call the guy, and personally have a sense of how personality wise, how that player will fit in. Um, maybe that's one of my maybe that's one of my qualities. I think I'm a good judge of character, and you know having the emotional and social intelligence to see if that person will be able to fit in that group. Nobody's perfect, and I think everybody makes mistakes and everything. I'm not saying we're only going to recruit angels and guys that are perfect and well behaved. I think in a hockey team and in a group you need a mix of everything. That's one thing we learned last year, me and Tim. We maybe after a few months we realized we needed a bit more characters, a little bit more life in the dressing room. But that changed when the guys got to know each other and they got closer as a team. That changed. But yeah, in the recruiting process, there's a lot of ways you can find out about players. And most of the people you talk to are going to be honest with you because it's their reputation that is at stake. If I call someone about a player and he lies to me, then when he's asking for reference, I won't be helpful. So most people in the hockey world are honest, and it's in today's day and age with technology, it's pretty easy to find out a lot about everybody.
And when you look back at the roster from last year, was there anyone who came in and surprised you from an on-ice or an off-ice perspective?
I mean, the obvious answer is Sam. We did our homeworks on Sam. We knew he was going to be a good player, but I would lie if I told you I knew he was going to be that dominant. We watched him play, and we only heard good things about him as a person, and we kind of knew right away that he would probably be one of the leaders. But it's tough when 2 years ago Sam played, I don't know, an average of 12 minutes a game in the American League. So it's really tough to see the kind of potential he had offensively. But yeah, he showed pretty quickly that he was a dominant offensive player. Besides that, I think Tuzi. I mean, I talked to him a lot last summer, and we have friends in common. I knew he was going to bring life, but I didn't know maybe to what degree he was passionate about the game and how much he really was going to put a little bit of a spark in the dressing room. And that was a pleasant surprise. I think for the most part, I think everybody was, what I expected or better in terms of, when they came in.
And looking at Tuzi, his debut certainly opened a lot of eyes. Because at that point, you must have been wondering, because you could watch all the tape that when he gets in that fight in the corner, then he's on the camera sticking his tongue out through his teeth. It was just all kinds of chaos that day.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. I think it was what we needed, and especially with a couple months left of the season, to have somebody that comes and is so passionate like that. That it was a good spark, and I think everybody was pleased that we had him on board.
And then when talking about recruitment of players, when the process first starts, say like it was last summer, you want to start out with a blank canvas, you got a new. It's not a case of for you as it is like for me and for fans and things where we go through elite prospects. That guy'd be a good player. Is it about? Is it more you reaching out? Is it more agents reaching out to you? What's the ratio in that sort of perspective?
It's a bit of everything. It's a mixture of everything. We get agents that send us players daily, and also players that reach out either via the info account or via a friends in common or somebody they know around the league, or just players that represent themselves or are trying to find a better job and they reach out directly. There's also us. I say us because I work closely with Tim, that reach out to agents or to ex-coaches or just connection and try to find guys that would be interested. And there's also us doing what you and what other fans do around the league, is going on Elite Prospect and finding guys, watching a bit of tape on that guy and saying, well, he would be good. And then you find a phone number. It's pretty easy. Like I said, the hockey world's a small world. You find a phone number, you reach out. Are you interested? Yes or no. You pick up the phone, you talk to him. And that's how you build connection, and that's how you make contacts. I do a lot of phone calls that end up nowhere. I do a lot of emailing that end up nowhere. But I never see it as time wasted, because down the line I might use that connection to get a reference on someone. I might use that connection to, maybe that player plays for me in 3 years. I don't know. But so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, just talking to people and reaching out to different agents with, different needs. But there's also a lot of players that it just happened to fall because it's a friend of a friend. And, that's how Brian Conley came, because I knew one of my good friends played with him, and I got his number, and we got, that's how it worked out. It depends on the player. There's a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Now you're in a unique perspective in that you've been on both sides of the negotiating table now.
Mm.
Which side of it do you prefer?
It depends what kind of player you are. I don't think I was good enough as a player, to be a good negotiator. But on this side, on my side right now, it's definitely fun, because if somebody wants to come play for me, I have a good negotiating power. As a player, if you're a really, really good player, then it's probably better to be the player, because there's a lot of clubs that are going to be after you. Yeah, depends.
So how involved is it when it comes to negotiation wise, like not numbers or anything, but is it more talking to the player, more talking to the agent, or do some players represent themselves as well, sort of thing?
Yeah, some players like to keep things separate, and I'll have a chat about life in Nottingham and about systems and about what we do as a group with the player, and then they'll say, okay, well, can you please talk money with my agent? Some players just straight up don't have an agent, so I do everything with them. And some players, I just say hi and get a feel of how they are as a person, and I do everything else with the agent. It really, really depends. Some guys have a European agent and a North American agent, and they don't have a strong relationship with the European agent. So these guys probably will ask me the question and go through me to get their answers. Some guys have had the same agents for years and years and years, so they trust that person, and I'll deal with the agent because, that player says, if my agent thinks this is a good club for me, I trust him. So it really, really depends. There's a lot of agents out there, and there's a lot of players that are fed up with, not finding exactly what they're looking for. So they decide to take control and deal with their contracts on their own. But yeah, it depends.
And when you get a negotiation through, is it a fist pump moment, or is it a sign of, oh, finally, or is it, what's the feeling when someone says, yes, I'm coming to Nottingham?
Yeah, usually when I get the signed contract back, it's a big sigh of relief, because it's done. There's you never know. Most of the time, there's no last minute. It's not a movie. There's no last minute clause added to and then the contract falls through. But you never know. Most times you have a good idea of if this is going somewhere or not. But when you finally get the piece of paper that's signed, okay, that's usually I crack a beer open and I say, okay, that's a good thing. We got one done. But usually last summer there was always one more to go, always something else coming up, so I didn't have a lot of time to enjoy it. But yeah.
It's like a jigsaw, something like, because if it's like, sometimes it's like, if this guy comes, I want to go this way, but if he says no, I've got to go. It's like you're always working with different zigzags, sort of thing.
Yeah. That was the hard part last summer, and that's also why, like we discussed earlier, that's why it's important to keep guys that and not just because you know them, but also because they play a certain role and they fill a certain roster spot. And then it's easier to really focus your attention on what you need to complement or to help that player that you already have. The jigsaw becomes very hard if you start from scratch and you don't know what you're looking for. Basically, you have to have option A, B, C, D, E for each position, and you don't know how exactly they're going to fit together until you have a few players signed. And then that happens a lot. we focus our energy or time on a couple players, and we think, okay, we have a good chance of getting them, and it doesn't work. Then you have to find, you always have a list and you always have a few other options. But when you circle in and you say, okay, this is the guy we want, if it doesn't work, you have to change your plan a little bit.
But you kind of see that with when you go back through the years. Like the recent example is Cardiff. They retain such a core every time, and they're always competitive. When Nottingham won all their trophies, it was always like Craig Kowalski, Matt Francis, David Beauregard, all these guys, Jordan Fox, just guys coming back, and then you build around the guys coming back. So that is the blueprint to success everywhere.
Well, for sure. And I think, if you have Kowalski, you have Clark, you have you have a good goalie, you have your goal scorer, you have
Myers, Lapine.
Exactly. You fill in these spots, then the summer's pretty good for somebody like me, because you have to find 5 guys and one of them has to be a defensive defenseman. Well, whatever you're looking for, it's pretty easy. If you're looking for all of these things, plus a goalie, plus a goal scorer, plus a Brit, and then it becomes a lot of work, and there's a lot of ways you can go wrong, and there's a lot of ways you could spend a lot of time looking for, valuable time that you could be spending on making sure you get the best left wing second line that you're looking for.
And whilst a lot is unknown about next season, there are 2 things we do know. It's that Brian Connolly and Mark Matheson have moved to other clubs in Europe. Well, I just want to work with you on their contributions this season, because obviously they were both veteran players, they were both leaders on that team. Yeah,
they were both huge. They were a big part of our success last year. They were, the two oldest defensemen that we relied on, especially when we were short with injuries. These guys played about 28, 32 minutes a night. I remember you showed me stats on Matheson in Denmark. It was insane the amount of minutes he played that weekend. They were a big part of our defensive group. But in this climate, in this situation, they had to do what was best for their family, and I can't blame them. I understand. It was as a director of hockey, it was crushing and it was devastating. But as a person, I completely understand their decision. They go somewhere where they feel they have a bit more security, a bit more certainty, and that's who can blame them. But yeah, last year I think I was really happy with both of them. Under different circumstances, I think both of them would be back playing for us in 2021. They both enjoyed their time in Nottingham, and it's just unfortunate that it won't be able to see a second season.
I think that's the thing as well, is like the Nottingham Panthers aren't going to be the only club that suffer with players with families looking for secure opportunities elsewhere. Like you say, it's a smart decision to go somewhere where something's going to happen, because they've already had clearance, or obviously we had that little bit of good news the other day, but it doesn't mean anything unless whatever happens in August goes well, and then you build on from there and there. So it's going to be a thing for everyone for a little while yet.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think at least for the short term, we're going to see a lot of that. Not everybody. It's like we touched upon earlier. Not everybody sees this virus the same way, and nobody reacts to it the same way. But if somebody tells me, Guy, for my family, what's best for my family right now, it's to sign this contract. I cannot offer that security. I cannot offer that guaranteed money, or that guaranteed you're going to have somewhere. There's so many things that come into play. Some of these players, they have a house back in their home country and they rent it out from August 1st. I can't guarantee that you'll be able to move into your team flat on August 15th. Right now, probably not. There's a lot of things that come into play. So if somebody tells me, listen, this is the best for my family, there's not much we can do. It's disappointing, but it's out of our control. I try not to lose too much sleep over it, because it's not much we can do.
That's the key, isn't it? It's just take it as it comes, and as news comes through, then things can start to happen, sort of thing. And it's frustrating, but at least now there is a little glimmer of light through the window down the road.
Yeah, and I've been positive through in this the whole summer. So hopefully hopefully the next few weeks go well. Better, even better than expected would be great. And then we'll get some good news soon.
So when you're not trying to worry about that sort of thing, what are you doing to keep your mind off that at the minute? Is it just being a dad? Is that your main other
That's
focus?
a lot of my time. Yeah, that's a lot of my time.
You prepared for
Trying
being a dad after looking after a lot of hockey players for a whole season.
yeah, at least they don't keep me up at night. The players, they keep me busy during the day, but I have free time. No, it's been good. I won't complain. We have a great baby, but yeah, that's taking up a lot of my time, and I think in this situation that probably is the best thing that could have happened, and I'm lucky to be able to spend quality time with the baby right now. I don't know, and in a regular summer, or if the baby was born during the season, I probably would not have had the close relationship that I have right now. So that's really good. But yeah, besides that, we've been traveling a little bit. We've been here and there trying to stay busy. But yeah, being a dad is time consuming. That's for sure.
Well, I'm sure it's another challenge that you're embracing, and hopefully we'll see you in Nottingham in the not too distant future.
Yeah, hopefully.